The notification chimed on my phone at 6:47 p.m., right as I was installing the new kitchen cabinet hinges. After 3 months of blessed silence, Lana had finally decided to grace me with her wisdom. Transfer the house to my name and I'll come back. I stared at the screen, then burst out laughing. The sound echoed through my half-renovated kitchen, bouncing off the exposed brick walls and unfinished countertops. My name is Hale Trenwick, and I'm apparently married to the most delusional woman in Massachusetts. Come back? I muttered, setting down my screwdriver, like I'm sitting here pining away waiting for her royal return. The truth was, these past 3 months had been the most peaceful of my adult life. No more passive-aggressive notes about leaving dishes in the sink. No more complaints about my blue-collar friends embarrassing her at company parties. No more listening to her gush about her brilliant boss, Soren Valden, and his revolutionary ideas about corporate synergy. I forwarded the message to my lawyer with a note. Should I include a red carpet with the deed transfer? My phone rang immediately. Danny, my best friend since high school, and the only mechanic in town who could make a 1995 Ford pickup purr like a luxury sedan. Dude, Linda just told me she saw Lana's car at the Marriott downtown, with some fancy suit. Let me guess, I said, opening a beer. Tall, silver hair, drives a BMW like he's compensating for something? That's the one. Soren, what's his name? Your wife's got expensive taste in affair partners. I took a long sip, savoring both the beer and the irony. Ex-wife, hopefully, and apparently, expensive taste but a cheap bank account. What do you mean? I pulled up my laptop, fingers dancing across the keyboard. One of the benefits of being a software engineer before I switched to contracting, I knew my way around digital systems. Lana had never bothered changing her passwords after she moved out. Her main credit card was maxed out. Her savings account, which she'd been steadily draining, was down to $43. She's broke, Danny, completely tapped out. And now she wants the house. I clicked through more screens. But here's the interesting part. I did some digging into Soren's company finances. Public records, you understand. Completely legal. His expense account has been flagged for irregular spending. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, weekend trips to Martha's Vineyard. On the company dime? Every last cent. I closed the laptop. Looks like Romeo and Juliet have been living the high life on someone else's money, and now the bills are coming due. Danny whistled low. So, what's your play? Before I could answer, my doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Linda from next door, holding what was obviously an empty sugar container. Linda was 62, retired, and had turned neighborhood gossip into an art form. Gotta go, Danny. The intelligence network has arrived. I opened the door to Linda's concerned face. Hale, honey, I hate to bother you, but I'm completely out of sugar, and I'm making cookies for the church bake sale. Of course. I led her to the kitchen, where she immediately began surveying the renovation progress with sharp eyes. This is looking wonderful. You're so handy, not like some husbands who can't even change a light bulb. She paused meaningfully. Speaking of husbands, I saw Lana at the grocery store last week. She was with that man from her office. Very cozy. I handed her the sugar container. Soren Valden, her boss. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Linda's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Oh my, and here I thought she was just working late all those nights. Apparently she was working, just not on spreadsheets. Well? Linda clutched the sugar to her chest. I always said that girl had ideas above her station. Remember when she insisted on valet parking at the neighborhood barbecue? Who does that? After Linda left, armed with sugar and enough gossip ammunition to fuel 3 weeks of coffee clatch conversations, I settled back at my laptop. Time to do a little more research on my wife's boyfriend. Soren Valden, 45, Vice President of Strategic Development at Morrison Industries. Married to Zara Valden, daughter of the Morrison family that owned half the commercial real estate in the city. No children. Home address, Beacon Hill penthouse worth approximately $2.8 million. I was deep in property records when my phone buzzed again. I'm not joking, Hale. I need that house. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I stared at the message, then typed back, file for divorce like a normal person. The house isn't for sale. Her response came immediately. I'll make you regret ignoring me. There's the Lana I remember, I muttered, screenshotting the threat. I was about to close my laptop when one more notification popped up. An unknown number. Mr. Trenwick, this is Zara Valden. We need to talk. About our spouses. I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I typed back. When and where? I'm outside your house. I have a folder and I have a plan. I looked out the front window. A silver Mercedes sat at the curb, and behind the wheel was a woman with dark hair and the kind of posture that suggested she'd never backed down from a fight in her life. This was about to get very interesting. I opened the front door to find Zara Valden standing on my porch, looking like she'd stepped out of a boardroom and into a war zone. She was tall, elegant, and carrying a leather portfolio that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Mrs. Valden. Zara, please, and you must be the husband my spouse is trying to destroy. That's me, though I prefer to think of myself as the husband who's about to return the favor. She smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. Good. Then we're going to get along just fine. I invited her in, leading her to the living room where my renovation work was most complete. She settled into my leather armchair like she belonged there, opening her portfolio with practiced efficiency. How much do you know about your wife's relationship with my husband? She asked. Enough to know it's been going on for at least 6 months, probably longer. Enough to know they've been spending money like water, and most of it isn't theirs. Excellent. Then you won't be shocked by these. She handed me a stack of photographs, hotel receipts, credit card statements, screenshots of text messages that made my teeth clench. The most damaging was a photo of Lana and Soren at some charity gala, her wearing a dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent, him with his hand possessively on her lower back. How long have you known? I asked. 8 months. I hired a private investigator after Soren started working late every night and coming home smelling like perfume that definitely wasn't mine. She leaned back in the chair. The question is, what are we going to do about it? We? Hale, may I call you Hale? My husband has been stealing from his own company to fund this affair. Your wife has been helping him do it. They've racked up over $60,000 in unauthorized expenses, and when the auditors finish their investigation next month, both of them are going to face serious consequences. I whistled low. 60,000? Hotel suites. First-class flights to conferences that don't exist. Dinners at restaurants where the wine costs more per bottle than most people make in a week. Her voice was ice-cold professional. But here's what they don't know. I've been documenting everything. Every receipt, every lie, every stolen moment they thought was secret. And you want to what exactly? Turn them in? I want to destroy them. She said it so calmly, she might have been discussing the weather. Completely, publicly, and permanently. But I need your help. What kind of help? Lana is going to escalate. She's desperate, and desperate people make mistakes. When she does, I need someone who understands her psychology, her weaknesses, her pressure points. I thought about the threatening text message. She's already escalating. Perfect. Zara pulled out her phone. Show me. I forwarded her the messages. She read them, nodding slowly. Excellent. She's building a pattern of harassment. Document everything from now on. Every call, every text, every time she shows up here uninvited. You think she'll show up here? I know she will, because tomorrow morning Soren is going to discover that his company credit card has been suspended pending investigation. His expense account is frozen, and his wife has filed for legal separation. I stared at her. You're filing tomorrow? I filed 3 days ago. The papers are being served at his office at 9 a.m. She smiled that sharp smile again. I wanted to give you advance warning, because when Soren panics, he's going to send Lana to handle you. She'll try to convince you to back down, to not cooperate with any investigation, to protect their little love nest. And when she does, you're going to record every word. Then you're going to send her away empty-handed, and then we're going to use her own desperation against her. My phone rang. Danny again. Take it, Zara said. I want to hear what the local intelligence network has to say. I put the phone on speaker. What's up, Danny? Dude, you're not going to believe this. I'm at Murphy's bar, and guess who just walked in looking like someone stole their puppy? Enlighten me. Lana and her boyfriend. They're at the corner booth and she's crying, like actual tears. He keeps checking his phone and looking nervous. I glanced at Zara, who was taking notes in a small leather notebook. What are they talking about? I asked. Hard to hear everything, but I caught something about lawyers and money problems. Oh, and get this, she just said your name, something about you being stubborn and how they need to handle the situation. Keep listening, I said, but don't be obvious about it. Are you kidding? Half the bar is listening. Linda's nephew works here, and he's been texting updates to everyone in the neighborhood. This is better than cable TV. After I hung up, Zara looked impressed. You have an entire surveillance network and you don't even realize it. Small neighborhood. Everyone knows everyone else's business. That's going to work in our favor. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. I'm going to make a suggestion that might sound unusual. I'm listening. I think I should move in here, temporarily. I nearly choked on my beer. Excuse me? Think about it logically. I've just separated from my husband. I need somewhere safe to stay while the divorce proceedings move forward. You have a large house and could probably use help with expenses while you're renovating. She gestured around the room. Plus, it will drive both of them absolutely insane. She had a point. The neighbors will talk. The neighbors are already talking. Let's give them something interesting to talk about. She pulled out a checkbook. I'll pay half the mortgage and utilities. In exchange, I get a room, and we coordinate our strategy. Strategy for what, exactly? Complete and total victory. She wrote out a check and handed it to me. By the time we're finished, they'll wish they'd never met each other, let alone tried to cheat us. I looked at the check. It was for 3 months' worth of mortgage payments. When do you want to move in? I asked. Tonight. I'll get my things from the penthouse while Soren is still at Murphy's bar, crying into his whiskey. 2 hours later, Zara's Mercedes was parked in my driveway, and she was carrying designer luggage up to my guest room. Linda appeared at her window so fast I was surprised she didn't leave a cartoon cloud of dust. My phone started ringing immediately. Hale? It was my neighbor from across the street. Is everything okay over there? Everything's fine, Mrs. Patterson. Zara is going through a difficult separation and needed somewhere safe to stay. Oh my. Well, that's very Christian of you to help her out. I thought so too. After I hung up, Zara appeared in the kitchen, having changed from her business suit into jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than my truck. Phase 1 complete, she announced. I left a note for Soren explaining that I've moved out temporarily and that all communication should go through my attorney. How do you think he'll react? Badly, which is exactly what we want. She opened the refrigerator and pulled out ingredients for what looked like a gourmet meal. I hope you don't mind, but I thought I'd cook dinner. It's been months since I've had a kitchen to myself. You cook? I went to culinary school before I met Soren, back when I thought I might open a restaurant instead of playing corporate wife. As she worked, chopping vegetables with professional precision, I found myself reassessing everything I thought I knew about this situation. Zara wasn't just angry, she was strategic, patient, and probably more dangerous than Lana and Soren combined. Can I ask you something? I said. Of course. Why now? You've known about the affair for 8 months. Why act now? She paused in her chopping, looking out the kitchen window toward the city lights. Because last week, I found out about you. What about me? That Lana was planning to leave you with nothing. Take the house, drain the accounts, destroy your credit, and disappear with my husband. She resumed chopping, her knife work aggressive and precise. I realized that if I didn't act, she was going to ruin an innocent person's life just to fund her fantasy. So this is about justice? This is about making sure that when the dust settles, the right people are left standing. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Tell your new roommate that 2 can play this game. I showed it to Zara. She read it and smiled. Soren found my note, right on schedule. Should I be worried? About Soren? Please. The man thinks intimidation means raising his voice in meetings. She seasoned the vegetables with herbs that smelled like they came from a 5-star restaurant. But we should probably install some security cameras, just in case they decide to escalate beyond angry text messages. I can handle that tomorrow. Good, because tomorrow is when things get really interesting. She was right. At 8:30 the next morning, my phone rang. Hale. It was Lana, and she sounded furious. We need to talk. We really don't. I'm coming over. Don't bother. I'm not interested in anything you have to say. You can't just... I hung up and immediately called Danny. I need you to come over. Bring your camera. Why? Because my wife is about to make a very big mistake, and I want it documented. Lana arrived at 9:15 a.m. in Soren's BMW, which she parked at an aggressive angle across my driveway. She'd dressed for battle. Power suit, heels that could double as weapons, and the expression she usually reserved for dealing with incompetent service workers. I watched from the kitchen window as she marched up to my front door, her phone pressed to her ear. Yes, Soren, I'm handling it, she was saying loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. Just focus on dealing with your wife's little tantrum. She rang the doorbell like she was trying to break it. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Lana. Don't Lana me. What the hell do you think you're doing? Living in my house, enjoying my coffee, the usual Saturday morning activities. You know what I'm talking about. That woman can't stay here. Zara is going through a difficult time. I'm helping a friend. Friend? Lana's voice went up an octave. You don't even know her. I know her husband is cheating on her with my wife. That gives us something in common. From the corner of my eye, I saw Linda's curtains twitch. Danny's truck was parked across the street, and he was pretending to check his phone while actually recording everything. Hale, be reasonable. Transfer the house to my name, and I'll make sure Zara doesn't cause problems for you in the divorce. What divorce? You haven't filed for divorce. I will if you don't cooperate. Then file. I'll wait. Lana stepped closer, lowering her voice to what she probably thought was a seductive tone. Baby, we can work this out. We had good times together. We can have them again. The good times ended when you started having them with someone else. That's not... Lana, I have hotel receipts. I have credit card statements. I have photos of you two at charity events looking very much like a couple. I pulled out my phone and showed her one of Zara's pictures. This is you at the Morrison Foundation Gala, wearing a dress that cost $4,000. Want to explain how you afforded that on your assistant's salary? Her face went pale, then red. You've been spying on me? I've been protecting myself from a wife who was planning to rob me blind. I wasn't. You maxed out 3 credit cards. You emptied your savings account. You've been living off Soren's expense account for months. And now that the company has caught on, you need my house to keep funding your lifestyle. That's not true. Which part? The credit cards? The empty savings account? Or the fact that Soren got served with separation papers yesterday morning? Lana's mouth opened and closed like a fish. How did you... Know about the separation? Because unlike you, I don't keep secrets from the people I'm working with. Working with? Zara and I have a lot to discuss about our spouses, about their spending habits, about their plans for the future. Lana's composure finally cracked completely. You can't do this to me. I have rights. You have the right to file for divorce and ask for whatever the court thinks you deserve. You don't have the right to steal my house. I'm not stealing anything. We're married. Half of everything is mine. Then prove it in court, with lawyers, like civilized people. Hale, please. Now she was crying, real tears that smeared her carefully applied makeup. I made mistakes, okay? But I love you. I want to come home. No, you don't. You want my house because you can't afford to keep living the fantasy life you've been building with Soren. That's not... Lana, go home. To whatever home you've been calling home for the past 3 months. Work out your problems with your boyfriend. But leave me out of it. I started to close the door, but she grabbed the frame. If you don't help me, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. What kind of man is that? The kind who throws his wife out on the street. The kind who refuses to help when she's desperate. The kind who doesn't enable his wife's affair. I gently removed her hand from the door frame. Lana, half the neighborhood already knows you're living with Soren. The other half will know by dinner time. You can't shame me for something you did. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I closed the door and locked it. Through the window, I watched her stand on my porch for a full minute, probably trying to decide between pleading and threatening. Finally, she walked back to the BMW, but instead of leaving, she sat in the driver's seat and made a phone call. Zara appeared beside me at the window. How did I do? You were listening? Every word. I was recording from the kitchen. She held up her phone. That was beautifully handled, by the way. You gave her every opportunity to be reasonable. And she chose to be threatening instead, which is exactly what we needed. My phone rang. Danny. Dude, that was amazing. I got the whole thing on video. Send it to me, and keep recording. She's still sitting in my driveway. Already on it. Also, Linda wants to know if you need backup. She's got 3 other neighbors on standby. Tell Linda I appreciate the support, but I think we're okay for now. I hung up and turned to Zara. What's the next phase of your plan? We wait. Lana is about to make another mistake. What kind of mistake? The kind that desperate people make when they realize they're losing control. She was right. 20 minutes later, Lana was back at my door, but this time, she wasn't alone. Soren stood beside her, looking like a man who'd spent the morning discovering just how much trouble he was in. Hale. Soren's voice was carefully controlled, the tone he probably used in business meetings when he was trying to intimidate junior employees. I think we need to have a conversation. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Man to man. The man who's been sleeping with my wife wants to have a man-to-man conversation. That's rich. Look, I understand you're upset. Upset? I laughed. Soren, I'm not upset. I'm entertained. This is the most fun I've had in months. His carefully controlled expression cracked slightly. Fun? Watching you realize that your corporate credit card has been suspended. Watching you discover that your wife has moved out and filed for separation. Watching you figure out that your little love nest is about to collapse. I leaned against the doorframe. Yeah, it's been very entertaining. Hale, be reasonable. We can work something out. What kind of something? Lana needs a place to stay while we sort out this misunderstanding with the company. If you let her move back in temporarily... Temporarily? How temporary? Just until what? Until you figure out how to steal enough money to support her? Until you find another company to defraud? Until you convince your wife to take you back? Soren's face was turning red. Now listen here. No, you listen. You want to play house with my wife? Fine. But you're going to do it on your own dime, in your own place, without involving me in your financial problems. You can't just abandon your wife. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm declining to participate in fraud. Fraud? Lana stepped forward. Nobody's talking about fraud. $60,000 in unauthorized company expenses. That's not talking about fraud. That's committing fraud. Both of them went very still. How do you know about that? Soren asked quietly. I know a lot of things. I know about the hotel rooms, the fake conferences, the dinners that cost more than most people's car payments. I know about the Martha's Vineyard weekends that you build as business trips. You can't prove any of that. I don't have to prove anything. The company auditors are going to prove it for me. Soren and Lana exchanged a look that confirmed everything Zara had told me. What do you want? Soren asked. I want you to leave my property. I want you to stop contacting me, and I want you to figure out your own problems without involving me. And if we don't? Then you'll discover that I'm much better at this game than you thought. They left, but not before Soren made a show of writing down my license plate number, like that was supposed to intimidate me. After they drove away, Zara emerged from the kitchen, applauding slowly. That was masterful, she said. You let them think they were in control, then pulled the rug out from under them. They'll be back. Of course they will, but next time they'll be even more desperate, and desperate people make bigger mistakes. What kind of mistakes? She smiled that sharp smile. The kind that end careers and destroy reputations. My phone buzzed with a text from Lana. You're going to regret this. I showed it to Zara, who photographed it with her phone. Add it to the file, she said. We're going to need all the evidence we can get. Evidence for what? The restraining order we're going to file next week. Restraining order? Hale, they just threatened you on your own property, in front of witnesses, after you asked them to leave. That's harassment, and harassment is illegal. I looked out the window at the street, where Linda was pretending to water her flowers while obviously keeping watch. This is really happening, isn't it? This is really happening, and we're going to win. The restraining order was served on Thursday morning, just as Soren was arriving at his office. According to Zara's sources, and she seemed to have sources everywhere, he was escorted from the building by security while his colleagues watched from the windows. Lana's reaction was more dramatic. She showed up at my house that evening, pounding on the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Open this door right now, she screamed. You can't hide behind lawyers forever. I didn't open the door. Instead, I called the police. This is Hale Trenwick at 247 Oak Street. I have a restraining order against my estranged wife, and she's currently violating it by threatening me on my property. The police arrived in 6 minutes. By then, half the neighborhood had gathered on their porches to watch the show. Lana was still screaming about her rights and my obligations when they handcuffed her. This is harassment, she yelled as they put her in the patrol car. He's trying to destroy my life. Ma'am, one of the officers said patiently, you're the one who came to his house after being served with a legal order to stay away. As the police car drove away, Linda appeared at my elbow. Well, she said with satisfaction, I never thought I'd see the day. What day is that, Linda? The day Lana Trenwick got exactly what she deserved. The next morning brought a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Trenwick, this is Detective Morrison with the Financial Crimes Unit. We'd like to speak with you about some irregularities in your wife's spending patterns. What kind of irregularities? The kind that involve company credit cards and unauthorized expenses. Would you be available to come in this afternoon? I glanced at Zara, who was making coffee and pretending not to listen. I'll be there at 2. The detective was a tired-looking woman in her 50s, who had the air of someone who'd seen every possible variation of human greed and stupidity. Mr. Trenwick, we're investigating approximately $67,000 in fraudulent charges made by Soren Valden and your wife over the past 8 months. 67,000? Hotel suites, expensive restaurants, first-class flights, luxury shopping, all billed to Morrison Industries as business expenses. She slid a folder across the desk. We have evidence that your wife was present for most of these purchases. I flipped through the folder, photos from hotel security cameras, credit card receipts with Lana's signature, airline records showing her traveling with Soren to cities where Morrison Industries had no business. What do you need from me? We need to know if you were aware of any of this spending, if your wife discussed these trips with you, if she brought home expensive items that you couldn't account for. I thought about the designer dresses I'd seen in our closet, the jewelry that had appeared without explanation. The weekend trips she'd claimed were work conferences. I suspected something was wrong, but I didn't know the extent of it. Did she ever ask you to lie about her whereabouts? Provide alibis for her activities? She stopped discussing her work with me months ago, said I wouldn't understand the complexities of corporate finance. Detective Morrison made notes. We're going to need you to testify about what you observed. The spending patterns, the unexplained absences, the luxury items. Will that help your case? Mr. Trenwick, your wife and Mr. Valden are looking at felony fraud charges. Your testimony could be the difference between a plea bargain and serious prison time. I left the police station with a court date and a subpoena. Zara was waiting in the parking lot. How did it go? She asked. They want me to testify. Apparently, Lana and Soren are looking at felony charges. Good. It's about time someone held them accountable. Zara, can I ask you something? Of course. How did the police get all that evidence? Hotel security footage, credit card records, airline information? That's not easy to obtain. She was quiet for a long moment. I may have provided them with some documentation. What kind of documentation? The kind that a concerned wife might collect when she suspects her husband of embezzlement. You've been planning this for months. I've been protecting myself for months. There's a difference. Is there? She looked at me with those sharp eyes. Hale, they were stealing money and destroying lives. Someone had to stop them. And you decided that someone was you. That someone was us. The trial was set for 6 weeks later, but Lana and Soren didn't wait that long to make their next move. On a Tuesday evening, while I was installing new security lights, I heard glass breaking in the back of the house. I grabbed my phone and called 911, then crept toward the sound. Through the kitchen window, I could see 2 figures in my living room, searching through papers on my desk. 911, what's your emergency? This is Hale Trenwick at 247 Oak Street. Someone has broken into my house. Are you inside the house, sir? I'm in the backyard. I can see them through the window. Stay where you are. Officers are on the way. But I didn't stay where I was. Instead, I used my key to enter through the front door, then turned on every light in the house. Lana and Soren froze like deer in headlights, standing in my living room surrounded by scattered papers and overturned furniture. Looking for something? I asked. Hale? Lana's voice was shaky. This isn't what it looks like. It looks like breaking and entering, which is a felony. We just needed to get some of my things. Your things like what, my financial records, my computer files? Soren stepped forward, trying to regain some authority. You have the right to remain silent, I interrupted as police sirens wailed in the distance. I'd recommend exercising it. The police found them still standing in my living room, surrounded by evidence of their search. In Soren's pocket was a USB drive containing copies of my bank statements and tax returns. We were just looking for documents related to the divorce, Lana explained to the arresting officer. Ma'am, you're already subject to a restraining order. Breaking into your husband's house violates that order, regardless of what you were looking for. As they were led away in handcuffs for the second time in 2 weeks, I surveyed the damage to my living room. Overturned furniture, scattered papers, a broken lamp. Zara appeared beside me, surveying the mess. Well, she said, that was stupid of them. Desperate people make desperate choices. Now they're looking at breaking and entering charges on top of the fraud. Their lawyer is going to have a very difficult time negotiating a plea bargain. Is that what you wanted? What I wanted was for them to face consequences for their actions. This exceeds my expectations. I looked around my destroyed living room. They were looking for something specific. What makes you say that? They went straight to my desk. They ignored the TV, the stereo, anything valuable. They wanted my financial records. Why would they want those? Because they're trying to prove I have hidden assets, something that would justify Lana getting a larger settlement in the divorce. Do you have hidden assets? I have a savings account they don't know about, money I've been setting aside for the renovation. I picked up an overturned chair. They were probably hoping to find evidence that I've been hiding money from Lana. Were you? I was protecting myself, just like you were. Zara helped me straighten the furniture. The trial is in 4 weeks. Are you ready? I've been ready for months. She picked up scattered papers, organizing them into neat piles. The question is, are you ready? To testify against my wife? To finish what we started? I looked around my house, not ours, not anymore, and thought about everything that had happened over the past few months. The lies, the theft, the threats, the break-in. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecutor presented a clear, methodical case. $67,000 in fraudulent expenses, documented with receipts, hotel records, and security footage. Lana and Soren's defense was that they had genuinely believed the expenses were legitimate business costs. It wasn't a convincing argument. When I testified, I kept my answers simple and factual. Yes, my wife had expensive items I couldn't account for. Yes, she had traveled frequently without explaining where or why. Yes, she had stopped discussing her work with me around the time the fraudulent expenses began. Lana's lawyer tried to paint me as a vindictive husband trying to destroy his wife's career, but the evidence was overwhelming. Hotel receipts with her signature, airline records showing personal travel billed as business expenses, security footage of her and Soren at luxury resorts that had nothing to do with Morrison Industries. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Soren got 18 months in federal prison and restitution of $67,000. Lana got 12 months and a criminal record that would make finding another job very difficult. As they were led away, Lana looked back at me one last time. I hope you're happy, she said. I'm satisfied, I replied. And I was. 6 months later, I was putting the finishing touches on my kitchen renovation when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I didn't recognize. Thin, tired-looking, wearing clothes that had seen better days. It took me a moment to realize it was Lana. Prison had not been kind to her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by discount store basics. The expensive haircut had grown out into something shapeless and dull. She looked like she'd aged 5 years and 6 months. Hello, Hale. Lana, you're out early. Good behavior. Can I come in? No. She nodded like she'd expected that answer. I wanted to apologize. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What did you expect? Forgiveness? A second chance? An invitation to move back in? I expected, I don't know, something more than okay. I leaned against the doorframe, studying this stranger who used to be my wife. Lana, you stole money, lied to me for months, threatened me, broke into my house, and tried to destroy my reputation in court. What kind of response were you hoping for? I was desperate. You were greedy. There's a difference. Hale, I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my future. Soren won't even take my calls. Shocking. The man who was willing to commit fraud for you isn't interested in a relationship now that you can't fund his lifestyle. Don't be cruel. I'm not being cruel, I'm being accurate. She looked past me into the house, taking in the completed renovation, the new furniture, the signs of a life that had moved on without her. The house looks good. Thank you. You always were handy. I never appreciated that. No, you didn't. I made mistakes, Hale. Terrible mistakes, but I paid for them. You paid what the court ordered you to pay. That's not the same thing as paying for your mistakes. What do you want from me? I've apologized. I've served my time. I've lost everything. I don't want anything from you, Lana. I want you to leave me alone and build whatever life you can with what you have left. And that's it? After 8 years of marriage, that's how it ends? It ended when you decided to steal money to fund an affair. This is just the paperwork. She stood there for a long moment, and I could see her trying to find the right words, the magic phrase that would make me soften, forgive, take her back. I loved you, she said finally. No, you didn't. You loved the security I provided. You loved having someone to fall back on when your schemes fell apart. But you never loved me. That's not true. Lana, if you had loved me, you wouldn't have spent months lying to me. You wouldn't have stolen money. You wouldn't have threatened me when I refused to help you cover up your crimes. People make mistakes when they're in love. People make choices. You made yours. A car pulled up to the curb, a beat-up sedan that had definitely seen better days. The driver honked impatiently. That's my ride, Lana said. Where are you living now? My sister's place, in Springfield. She got me a job at a call center. That's good. Honest work. Honest work. She laughed bitterly. Minimum wage, no benefits, no future, but honest. It's a start. Is it? Because it feels like an ending. I looked at this woman who had once shared my bed, my dreams, my life. She was right. This was an ending. But it was an ending she had written herself, one choice at a time. Goodbye, Lana. Goodbye, Hale. I watched her walk to the car, get in, and drive away. Then I closed the door, locked it, and went back to my kitchen. Zara was sitting at the breakfast bar, reading the newspaper and drinking coffee from one of the hand-thrown mugs I'd bought to replace the designer china Lana had preferred. How did that go? She asked. About as well as you'd expect. Any regrets? I thought about it as I poured myself coffee. Did I regret the marriage? The wasted years? The trust that had been broken? No, I said finally. No regrets. Good, because I have news. What kind of news? Soren's parole hearing was denied. He'll serve his full sentence. How do you feel about that? Satisfied. Like you said, I'm satisfied. Zara had never moved out of my guest room. What had started as a temporary arrangement during our mutual revenge campaign had evolved into something more comfortable. She cooked elaborate meals, and I fixed everything that broke. She handled the bills and I managed the household repairs. It worked. So what now? I asked. Now we live our lives. We enjoy our houses, our freedom, our peace of mind. Our houses? Well, your house, but I've grown fond of it. Fond enough to stay? If you'll have me, not as a roommate plotting revenge, but as someone who appreciates good coffee, home-cooked meals, and the company of a man who knows how to handle a crisis. I looked around my kitchen, our kitchen, really, since she'd been the one to choose the tile and the cabinet hardware. It was beautiful, functional, and completely different from the sterile showplace Lana had preferred. I think I can live with that arrangement. Good, because I already bought groceries for dinner, and I'm making that pasta dish you liked. The one with the mushrooms? The one with the mushrooms. I settled onto the bar stool next to her, reading over her shoulder as she turned the page of the newspaper. Any interesting news? The usual. Politicians lying, criminals getting caught, people making poor choices and facing consequences. Sounds familiar. Very familiar. She folded the paper and looked at me. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Lana had just been honest? If she'd come to you and said she was unhappy, wanted a divorce, wanted to try something new? I would have been hurt, but I would have respected her honesty. And Soren? If he'd handled his marriage problems like an adult instead of stealing money to fund an affair, he'd probably still have a job and a future. So many poor choices. So many consequences. Zara smiled and reached for her coffee. Well, their poor choices worked out very well for us. How do you figure? You got rid of a wife who didn't appreciate you. I got rid of a husband who didn't respect me. We both got justice for the people who tried to cheat us. And we ended up with a very nice life. I looked around our kitchen, our house, our carefully built piece. You're right. Their poor choices worked out very well for us. Sometimes, Zara said, raising her coffee mug in a mock toast, the best revenge is living well. To living well, I agreed, touching my mug to hers. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Linda was probably preparing her afternoon intelligence briefing. Danny was at his garage, fixing someone's engine. The world was going about its business, full of people making choices and facing consequences. And inside our house, Zara and I were planning dinner and discussing whether the living room needed new curtains. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was a good life, a peaceful life. A life built on honesty instead of lies, cooperation instead of betrayal, mutual respect instead of manipulation. Sometimes the best revenge really is living well. And we were living very well indeed.